Because the game launched.
Indeed. So I'm just going to cycle through my quick little intro. So for those of you just tuning in, my name is Resins22, and today I have the honor of co-casting with Neil Ferret for the King of the Hippo 2 Grand Finals. This match is a free-for-all King of the Hill with locked teams on the map Chaos Pit. And Neil Ferret, thank you so much for inviting me today.
You're very, very, very much welcome, Resonant. I thought we had a great casting last time, very energetic, and I'm looking forward to repeat exactly that. All the players are fighting for this very big monument in the middle. It is King of the Hippo, so it's a Hippo this time. All the players were allowed to choose a civilization, but they could not repeat those civilizations. So we have interesting matchups for sure, and we should be in for great battles here.
Now, you mentioned when the players were drafting their civilizations that you were particularly surprised with the Max's civ choice of the Byzantines. Why is that?
Obviously, I think you want to have civilizations with siege onagers, and there are still three civilizations which weren't picked: the Koreans, the Aztecs, and the Teutons. And at that time, even more civilizations, like Mongols, weren't picked yet, and so I would have picked other civilizations. He had a force pick, and I think it's not important to have good trash, but to have a very strong, like, 120 army.
Yeah, I think that makes I think it's a very good point. You know, while the Byzantines have access to things like bombard towers, bombard cannons, and just a wide variety of units, not having siege onagers is a pretty big blow, considering how clumped all the units are going to be when they gather around the center monument. By the way, how do I turn off the spectator chat?
Um, exclamation mark, chat off.
Easy sneezy. Thank you.
And
Oh, what's going on here?
a small pause as it seems. Oh, and Jon Snow building a bad wood camp here. Not really cutting himself to the outside, but being stuck.
Yeah, one of the dominant strategies on this map is going to be, obviously you want to escape the center area as fast as humanly possible because you have no gold in this middle area. So it's very important that you put your first lumber camp at the edge of the tree line. That way you can actually get out there and get some gold income.
Yeah, and normally you build your lumber camp directly at the wood, but that's the only spot where you want to have one tile in between your lumber camp and your tree line, because that's a bit more efficient in the first minutes, but you only are getting this wood for some minutes and then trying to get outside anyways.
Yeah, lumber camp positioning is a really interesting thing, because if you leave a one-tile space, it's really efficient until the tree line starts to really recede too far away from you. But since this tree line is so narrow, you actually do want to leave one tile.
Exactly that. So players are all chopping on the outside, as we said, except Jon Snow, who will be very late then when it comes to, yeah, getting on the outside and trying to boom there to get on to all the nice gold spots awaiting him outside.
Yeah, he's trying to take advantage of the Mongol deer hunting bonus here with a nice little lure straight underneath the town center. That should give him a pretty big early economic lead.
Indeedly that, but economic lead isn't really the most important thing in those settings. We still have to wait 500 years till we can actually declare a winner, so even if you're behind 20, 30 or even 40 volts in the boom, if you're there when the timer is ticking down, that's where you're winning the games.
This is a really interesting map generation. Like, unfortunately, the Max and Euler actually have to compete over their deer, and you see Euler is just going to mill it. He's not even going to bother luring it while the Max is trying to steal them. Players seem to have spawned in, like, giant clusters, and Skittle's actually fairly isolated for everybody else.
Yeah, that's quite surprising for me as well, but yeah, that's just how sometimes the generation works. If teal just would be a bit higher, that would make so much more sense, because teal, red, and purple are just so close to each other.
Yeah, so we expect to see basically a lot of watchtowers, and one of the main reasons is, of course, that no one actually has any access to gold until they chop through it, but you do have two tiles of stone, and players are in such close proximity to each other. But once they cut out and escape along the edges of the map, they can start putting down some town centers, mining gold, and collecting these relics.
Yeah, exactly that. And Buddy just asking, are there no boss on this map? No, there aren't. You have two berries, I believe, 1 patch of deers, and that's basically it. For your food income, I think you start with like 4 or 6 sheep, I believe.
Yeah, this is a very bizarre map that I had the pleasure of playing before. Having it really changes, I guess, the way that you play since you have 2 sets of berries and no boar. Can definitely throw players off their groove. I like to see though that people are using their houses and palisades to try and protect their wood lines since there are narrow choke points in those areas.
Yeah, for very sure. You don't want to get interrupted at all. Obviously, the strategy choices are so versatile, and especially now that we have 8 different civilizations, players don't really know what to do, but it seems like most players think, okay, better first get safe, get up my unit combination for the civs I was choosing for, and then go for a strong Imperial push.
Yep. We'll just have to see if anybody can avoid accidentally dying in the early game due to some really early game aggression, but it looks like everybody is going for a little bit of a wall off here. I just love watching the Max and Euler go off with their palisade walls. Euler has a very, very greedy wall off.
Yeah, that's true, and therefore he's getting 2 stone spots, and that's 1 stone spot of the max. So he is out of stone, and there's no stone outside. So Bomber Towers is not the greatest of options for him there.
Yeah, this is actually a pretty big bonus for Euler in the early game because he'll have access to all of that if he decides that he wants to put down a watchtower, and this is going to be a great start for him, so we'll have to see how this unfolds. Meanwhile, it looks like Jon Snow has finally put down 2 lumber camps along the edges of the map, so he realizes he's made a horrible mistake.
Yeah, but yeah, better late than never for sure. And let's talk about the choice of skill, going for Turks on a map with only 700 extra stone. Is that the right choice?
Not only that, but the gold can be a little bit risky to get. So I mean, the good news is though for him is that the lack of gold doesn't really bite the Turks too much until the later stages of the game. But this is an interesting civ choice. He won't really be able to take advantage of those bombard towers as easily, or all of the high gold costing units as easily. So I'm curious what his thought process was there.
Yeah, and he will need to invest a lot of stone even to get the +2 range upgrade for his bombard cannons. It's like 650 stone for the castle, 450 stone for the upgrade, so that's costly as well.
Yeah, and Turks really need that artillery bonus to be just as powerful as they normally are, so I think though that at the very least he will be able to pull it off by abusing the market. We'll have to keep our eyes peeled. He actually has Skittle has an almost complete... He does have a complete wall-off. Wow.
Quite surprising. Orange has kind of the same, and the rest was a bit walling for protection, but Skittle. And since he is so far away, I think he might be in the best spot here from all the players.
Yep, and meanwhile, Jon Snow is going to be our first player up to the Feudal Age, of course, taking advantage of the Mongols' hunting bonus as a way to sort of slingshot himself through the early game just a little bit quicker. He's got the blacksmith and the market down, and he should start working on the Castle Age in just a moment.
Yeah,
except he actually doesn't quite have enough food yet.
Yeah, remember guys, it is needed that you trade at least some resources in the market to go to Castle Age. So the later you go to Feudal Age and get this market up, the worse the exchange rate will be.
And it looks like... That's a very good point, by the way. And it looks like Euler is our first player, or one of our first players to actually have cut through this. The Max is also cut through the tree line, so now it's just going to be gray and blue, doing some scouting, trying to find a nice place to put down a mining camp. And meanwhile, Jon Snow on his way to the Castle Age.
By the way, I just realized a good thing about the Saracens. Players were criticizing Euler's choice there from the Saracens. I think he had the second pick, so... But... just abusing the better market might help out so much, because you can just get so many more castles there, can get your wood and food traded more easily. So now I finally starting to see why you picked it.
Yeah, the better market exchange rate is really important when you don't have access to reliable gold like it would be in this map. It's interesting to note that Jon Snow just really has not done very much walling at all. Like now he's doing it, but that's pretty greedy. All it'll take is like a couple of watchtowers to really mess up his day. Huh.
Yeah, but who really wants to invest 125 stone when you only have access to 700 extra? The big problem for him now is that the max is actually walling behind his tree line, and you can't really kill those palisades, and they're even Byzantine palisades, so 50 extra HP.
That's great. Someone did this to me when we played on this map, and I was like, "Whoa!" The thought never even crossed my mind. And that's why it's nice to be able to put down a defensive watchtower to protect your wood line to stop your opponent from being able to do that, because you're not going to have any archers or anything to stop him. So this is hilarious, and it's going to force the tower out from Jon Snow. Like you said, 125 stones valuable, and that's just down the drain.
Yeah, and even then, now the villager won't go down, and now he's trying to micro his villagers more to the right-hand side so that he does not have to fight against the palisades, but maybe the max will get a bit more fancy and might wall something behind here, but it seems like he is going back with this villager.
Meanwhile, it looks like Oiler's trying to secure as much map control as humanly possible by putting down some stone walls, but he is getting harassed by the Max's scout. The way this map is set up is actually really interesting because with all the cliffs and the small clumps of trees, you can actually get a fairly easy stone wall.
Yeah, it's quite reasonable for sure. Look at the base of Euler. SMB has a scout villager there.
Oh, whoa, he does.
Maybe misclicked or maybe I think
He's trying to sneak away.
what is he doing? I'm not really sure how he got there. Now reaching Castle Age, building a TC outside pretty soon. That's all reasonable, but this villager?
He's on a mission, and I'm really curious what the plan was here with this, because he's totally going to lose this villager to Oiler's scout no matter what happens. But on the other side of the map, SMB is in the Castle Age. He is putting down a town center on his gold. Oh, he says weird pathing.
Yeah, that's what he's saying now. But he wanted to have a sneak most likely and just says like, oh, well, it didn't work. Like, oh, weird pathing.
It's always the unit pathing. Oh, goodness. Well, meanwhile, looks like Jon Snow gets denied again by the Max, who puts down a house foundation.
Yeah,
Jon Snow could not escape just yet, but he's so close.
Yeah, he's so close indeed. The tower helping up for sure. But yeah, he obviously comes out so late that yeah, a lot of players already walled close to him. The Max will have better walls, Orange will have better walls, and the area Jon Snow can call himself home will be just so much smaller.
The general idea with this map is that since you don't have access to any safe gold in the early game, players' rushes aren't generally going to be as scary, so the goal is to cut through the forest ring as fast as humanly possible, plot down some town centers, get your economy going, and then that's when the fighting really begins, as players are just going to try and secure as much map control as they can.
Yeah, so true. And as we can see, there are like very little kills. I think only 4 units went, actually 5 units went down this whole game, so
Oh my goodness.
it's still very peaceful at 20-minute mark.
Meanwhile, Jon Snow has finally escaped his base. Meanwhile, Teutonic Tanks is trying to secure another wall off. It's really important to be one of the first players to actually escape from the forest ring. That way you can get a favorable stone wall and, secure as many gold mines on your side of your own walls as possible. Kind of like how Oilers stole that extra stone mine. That's gotta suck for the Max.
Why?
Well, I mean, that means that he's going to have less stone that he's going to be able to use for things like town centers.
With that palisade wall. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was a nice move. They were a very aggressive move and absolutely paid off. And we will see, the Max struggling very much to get into a good army. He's not on gold yet, but obviously not needed at all. And then I don't really see him going into the army where I will have nightmares of.
Yes. So what would be the army that you have nightmares of?
Obviously 150 elephants are pretty good. And Celt's armies can be pretty sick as well.
I always love and hate the Persians on any King of the Hill game, because once they get like a huge group of elephants, and they have a strong enough economy that they can usually get there, once they get a huge group of elephants and they just park themselves on the monument, it's really hard to remove them, even with an army of siege onagers. And of course the Celts are obnoxious as well, because you can just park a siege ram with 5,000 billion HP there, and those are also very difficult to remove.
Yeah, that's so
And they
true.
have great siege onagers too.
Yeah, the greatest. And I was actually surprised that no one picked Koreans because of the siege onagers.
Yeah, the Koreans are incredibly obnoxious if you don't actually die in the early game due to their lack of any substantial economy bonus. We all know that if you play any sort of slower map, that the Koreans are real terror.
And I would have put them into one of the top 8 civs. Obviously, they're super slow and it's tough to really keep on a lot of map presence, but I think once having a very strong army, they're scary. Scary for sure.
Yeah, they have a really difficult to deal with army comp in the late game. You know, having access to things like halberdiers, war wagons, hand cannoneers, bombard cannons, bombard towers, and siege onagers. It's really difficult to break through the Koreans' front lines sometimes. Now, so far, it looks like all the players are relatively close to each other, but do you think that anyone has a substantial lead at this point?
Yeah, I was just looking at the villager count. It is Jon Snow the lowest with 53 and the highest is 64, so it is all very in a reasonable range. Jon Snow obviously being behind because he kind of slowed himself down and then the Max even further slowed his escape, but it's still like so reasonable. So the boom isn't really the stuff, but the map control is pretty bad for Jon Snow, and the others have controlled a bit more of an area. I think like SMB is only having 2 gold spots, and Orange was quite unfortunate only having 2 gold spots, although he has quite a big area as well.
Yeah, it must suck to be one of those players that happens to be sandwiched between everybody else, like SMB and Jon Snow here. Meanwhile, Skittle just has this entire corner of the map to himself. He has so much area to play around with, so even though the Turks might seem like a little bit of a risky pick, it looks like he might be able to get free reign here. And it's nice to see something like the Turks, because I always consider the Goths to be one of those civilizations that, if underestimated, can really just steamroll a game, especially because there's like a Mayans in this game, so Teutonic Tanks doesn't really have a clear answer to those Huskarls, so my eyes are on Teal. He has a very slight villager lead, so he's looking strong.
Yeah, and you can take a look at him very closely because he has a lot of control as well and a lot of like gold mines here in the north, which he's actually securing for himself now as well. And Skittle is super happy that he has so many gold piles, but yeah, Teal is getting them very uncontested as well.
And then once the Goths get huge, much like the Turks, and they hit that early Imperial Age stage, they can be a real nightmare to deal with. I guess one downside with them, though, is that they don't actually get access to stone walls, but it looks like no one's going to be punishing them for that. Right now, we just have a relatively slow boom game as everyone's trying to secure map control and get their economy on track.
Yeah, and I can't blame them. Obviously, the strategies have shown that really slowing yourself down isn't the winning strategy. So either you kill someone and then really get more resources, more relics or something, and then it's worth killing someone, but just killing your neighbor and then not participating in the fight for the monument in the middle isn't the winning strategy.
Yeah, you have to get a pretty huge lead if you end up doing anything super aggressive, and it's even more risky when you're dealing with skilled players, because if you waste all your stone on a super aggressive tower rush, and you don't actually kill them, then you're completely out of the game. You won't be able to compete with all the other players that are booming out. Meanwhile, it looks like Jon Snow, he's put down the university and the siege workshop. Is he on his way to the Imperial Age? He is.
That's quite early for sure. Only 83 population, and that's all villagers, so that's not very high. Oh, and he is building a lot of siege workshops, so most likely I predict he's trying to do a mangonel ram push into the direction of Max and is trying to reclaim some area for himself.
What, do you think that's a good idea?
Yeah, because with the amount of gold he has, I think he has, let me count, that's 7, that's 12, that's 9,600 gold.
Yeah.
That's not enough. You have to invest like 4k in all the upgrades. That means you have less than 6k for actual units, and that's just not enough to fight 7 potential opponents. So I love that he is reclaiming some area, and only getting those 2 gold spots would be absolutely worth it.
Yeah, I think that this is a great choice on his part, and we all know exactly how expensive all the Mongol upgrades are in terms of gold. You need a siege onager, you need elite Mangudai, you need drill, and all those things just really drain on your economy. If he doesn't actually go for this aggressive siege push, I think that he basically just will lose the game based off attrition alone. He's just going to run out of gold, so I like this choice. I think he will be able to catch the Max off guard, but yeah, it's interesting to note that even though the Max is the cheaper Imperial Age, that he is not actually able to go to the Imperial Age yet, so I think this will catch him by surprise.
Yeah, but he has like 25 villagers more, so yeah, he's... Oh no, it's only 15, so yeah, he didn't really think about this. He was more the booming, controlling the map, and Jon Snow focused more on the real push here. The Max now trying to get a siege workshop up, but it might get close, especially because Jon Snow will be reaching Imperial Age any second.
Yeah, this is of course a bit of a trade-off here, as Jon Snow did go for a faster Imperial Age, so that means that he's going to have a smaller economy, but the eco difference isn't actually that big. I think the Max is responding to this correctly by putting down a defensive siege workshop and trying to get a mangonel to deal with the enemy siege weapons, and one of the nice things about mixing in your own mangonels is that Jon Snow will be able to prevent the Max from, adding an additional layer of walls. Fortified wall, out for the Max.
Yeah, fortified wall, 3.9k HP there, but if there is someone who is used to getting through walls, it is Jon Snow being an arena expert.
Yes, and here comes another desperation piece of fortified wall added by the Max. He's just trying to buy as much time as possible, because that's what he does need. He just needs time. Good news is for him is that this mangonel is out of range of the opposing mangonels currently, but Catbrand out for Jon Snow, so they will be pushing through his fortified walls even faster. The Max is running out of time, and he's going to put down a ton of barracks.
Yeah, and even 5 pikemen can easily clear that up. Jon Snow does not have a single real fighting unit there.
Yeah, that's true. What would you recommend that he do? Mix in a few scorpions or transition into something else?
Well, I think it is super tough for him. He doesn't really have the eco to build anything, so obviously a combination of hussars and skirmishes could do wonders, but he invested so much in this push here that it will just be tough to afford that.
Yeah, as soon as the pikemen start coming out, Jon Snow might lose his entire army. He got in, but I honestly think the Max did a good enough job stalling that the Max might not be dead. He's queued up so many pikemen. Siege rams are out, but the siege rams will not be able to deal with those pikes.
Yeah, just maybe can kill the Rex before a lot of pikemen actually come out. Now some onagers, but I think every onager produced now might be a loss. Because, yeah, they will just die without any protection there. Now trying to get up a castle, so obviously Mangudai is a great addition there. And a great protection.
Mangudai is exactly what you would need here. Just something to back up these siege weapons. It's very risky to go for like a mangonel and ram push without anything to back it up, because once the infantry come in here exploding the minimum range, those onagers are toast. So I hope Jon Snow can get that castle up before the pikemen really come out.
Yeah, you can see that he's not overcommitting, so he's doing the right step and sees, okay, this guy has some racks up already with some units inside, so I better go back, camp some in between here, and yeah, just wait for my spot to get through those 2 gold spots.
Meanwhile, it looks like across the rest of the map, not really too much going on, but Teal, it looks like he has his eyes set on Skittle. He has a bunch of barracks, a nice positioned defensive castle. Yeah, he's put down a bunch of barracks everywhere, so... Right now it's the calm before the storm, and most of the action is between green and blue. Jon Snow will be pulling his units back under the protection of his castle, and he will be mixing in scorpions. Nice!
Nice! Researching drill, researching heavy scorpions there, and he sees that it's tough to get into a big Mangudai army, so he will stay on scorpions for now, which obviously can do a lot of damage, but super vulnerable against onager shots.
Speaking of vulnerable against onager shots, we see one of the real weaknesses of this full siege army, where every time Jon Snow wants to snipe off some of those halberdiers, he has to hit his own rams with area of effect damage. And I like I think the heavy scorpion idea is cute. You already have all these siege workshops, you already kind of have the economy for it. It's going to be faster than just waiting for Mangudai.
Yeah, and the upgrade doesn't cost gold, so he has enough wood and food, so that's not really the problem. And it's not that much more expensive to build a Scorpion than a Mangudai.
Yeah, and they're great against low pierce armor units like the Halberdier. Of course, though, the Max is making the right decision here by fully investing in his defense upgrades first to take a bit less damage from that.
Yeah, that's true. And look at the other side. Skittle is gaining a lot of ground with his 14 range bombard cannons there,
Ooh.
and yeah, Teutonic tanks can only evacuate there.
And meanwhile, yellow is just closing in on poor orange, who didn't really just have a chance to get off the ground yet. He does have halberdiers and a decent amount of upgrades on them, but halberdiers are just not going to be enough. Same with the plumed archers. It's quite awkward to deal with those mass bombard cannons. And wow, do you see how many stables Skittle has at the back?
The back. Oh yeah, he was preparing quite some. Maybe fearing an attack of orange. Now you can see he already has villagers prepared. Is building a gate now and waiting to send his hussars in there.
So I do like the decision then from orange to add a lot of halberdiers in there. Of course, since gold is a very finite resource in this particular map, it's great to try and conserve that early, so you assume that the Turks would most definitely mix hussars into whatever they're doing, so the halbs will be nice. Orange just has to make sure that he doesn't lose too much ground here.
Yeah, and even if he does, he's trying to get the gold spots, and then it's only like reasonable amount of wood. He still has access to a lot of wood, but not endless amount. By the way, Jon Snow reclaimed even one of the mining spots of Teutonic tanks there, so he's doing everything right, getting his gold spots, so I like that a lot.
Yeah, great decision from Jon Snow to try and make this aggressive siege push. Finally getting a little bit of map control, a slice of the map for green. Meanwhile, I hope none of the players in this game forgot it was King of the Hill, because it's really easy to do that, and people do it all the time. It's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Right now, we're down to 100 years remaining. Teal is the only person who's really been invested in the center of the map right now, while everyone else is content to fight along the edge.
Yeah, that's super true. He is only booming, having a lot of production there close by, so it will be tough to really get him off there. So it's not like, okay, this guy only has 20 champions left there, just clear him up within the next 10 years. No, a constant stream of units can totally keep this wonder for ages.
And that's why I love the Goths so much in King of the Hill, because they can just continuously stream units constantly. Meanwhile, the Max mixing in some Hussars with his army, not only to conserve gold, but also as a way to deal with those heavy Scorpions, so I like to see that.
Yeah, I love that as well. So players now kind of, as you said, trying to slowly begin to think about the middle, producing at their home bases, but always taking a glimpse there. But for now, Timothy is the only one, and oh god, if he can snipe this one early on, that would be a huge upset for sure. But yeah, there's no one really taking care of it for now.
Yeah, I mean, this map is has a lot of anti-synergy with King of the Hill, because it forces players to, shift their attention towards the edges of the map, because that's where all the valuable resources are. Where really, the main objective is in the middle of the map where no one wants to be. And right now, 70 years remaining. Teal doesn't actually have that many military units, but he's the Goss. He can just spawn them out whenever he needs to.
Yeah, and for now he's keeping it 60 years, and I'm not really seeing anyone really going for the middle there. SMB is late.
Unfortunately for Skittle, this is something that I run into all the time. I don't want to spend my gold. He has to spend it now, because here comes the Huskarls, and Hussars are no longer going to cut it, so he's either going to need some hand cannoneers or maybe some champions or something to deal with this large army. Oh, this is going to be awful. 59 years remaining.
Yeah, but he only has 2 champions, so if just 3 champions of SMB would come in now, he could easily reclaim it. And at the same time,
taking their sweet time.
Teal is not losing any units, so he can't really defend the Wonder, because 40 units are just kind of stuck into Skittle's base.
Yeah, it's interesting. You take a look at his population, and it hasn't shifted between 208 to 210 the last 5 minutes. He's barely lost any units because these Huskarls are so bulky. And the Hussars just not really good enough in that matchup.
Let's see. Yeah, Red now got the Wonder. Teal got out of position there.
Oh god, thank goodness control shifted. It would have been so ridiculous if you could just park 3 champions there and win the game.
Yeah, and for all the guys who are not familiar with the settings, it is, you start with 550 years, it goes down to 100, and then it even goes down to 0, but whenever you switch it, it goes back up to 100 years, so you can't really snag the monument just 1 year before it counts down.
Which means plenty of room for comebacks, and you never know when the game is actually over. Meanwhile, everybody and their mother trying to get champions out to deal with those darn Goths, as the Goths right now kind of controlling the pace of the game. Unfortunately for Red, though, he does need additional gold mines. It just sucks to be one of those players that's sandwiched between there.
And Jon Snow is just easily killing the max there, who is not willing to go for paladins or cataphracts, so only playing with trash against scorpions and Mangudais. For now he's waiting with all his army behind, so we'll soon start a big clear off. Red is gonna win, says Timothy. 90 years still to go. And
yeah, the trash response is great and all until your opponent starts to get at the Mangudai. Then you really have to mix in some heavy cavalry to deal with this army like paladins or cataphracts. I do like though that the Max has some onagers and he has a fairly large army. He is going for the fight here, picking off a bunch of the siege weapons. I think it's gonna barely not be enough.
Yeah, killing all the SO, not the Mangudais, trying to get some scorpions as well. It was gold efficient wise, it was super effective for the max there, but that was clear because he didn't fight with a single gold unit there.
Yep, and meanwhile it looks like Skittle is content with just conceding the front half of his base. It was never really the focus. He already has the fortified walls and gates at the back, so he's okay with losing that. Most of his economy is in the back area, because right now his focus is on trying to defend against Orange, who has pushed him back with plumed archers and halberdiers.
Yeah, that's super true, and Titanic Kang's not really focusing on the middle at all. At least Skittle was trying to set something up there, and now getting pushed back at 2 flanks, going down to pop 160, not a lot of military, and yeah, trying to re-wall and losing a lot of gold and a lot of ground there.
Yep, and the Max still struggling to clear this out. He's trying his hardest, but he's running out of room to just put down some farms and economy. The siege weapons running rampant. He's throwing a bunch of elite skirmishers, but I guess he just doesn't really have the economy anymore to support any gold units.
He has 100 villagers still and 80 military, so he has enough military out. He just needs to group it properly. But yeah, losing so much ground, losing all the gold spots. So yeah, maybe in the end he knew that the game would go this way, that he had no access to gold. And then obviously Byzantines are the best civilization.
Yes. That's why I like that civilization so much. Poor Skittle, getting ganged up on here. No one really focusing on the middle of the map, and in fact, Teal's just completely shifted his attention into Skittle's base, and Skittle's gonna die, it looks like. Oh
yeah.
No!
Having only some Janissaries trying to wall more and more, but over chopping there did really hurt him. So many units in there, and yeah, Huskarls are just so tough to kill if you don't have a huge amount of Janissaries there.
Yeah, because they just, shirk off the castle fire and the town center fire so very easily. You need militaries to deal with them, and, if you asked me at the start of the game who I thought which player would die first, I would not have said Skittle. But, unfortunately, for such a great start that he had, it might not be enough. He's just trying to hold the line.
Yeah, he is down to 90 pop there, not having a lot of working town centers for sure. Still building some houses, but does not even have all the upgrades. Trying to hold the walls here, and is doing a good job with his bombard cannons there, so doing all the right steps to stay in the game. But the moment Teal sees this, he can easily kill those bombard cannons and then open the gates for Orange.
By the way, did you notice that? The Max has miraculously pushed back Jon Snow. What an epic battle! The trash strategy really paying off, as I suppose Jon Snow is losing a lot of gold in these fights.
Oh yeah, he is still pop 200 the max and did build so many units there, having close to 100 military and all the upgrades, and yeah, good job there against Jon Snow for sure.
Yeah, the Max going for the slow value game, conceding that he's going to lose early, as it takes, it takes forever and your units are so very weak, but he's just slowly grinding out green. Meanwhile, Skittle desperately trying to hold the line underneath his castle, and Gray has a ton of villagers at the center monument.
Yeah, but they might die soon. He has a good army prepared on the back, but not in reach of really getting a hold of this monument there.
It's interesting to see the Spanish with no gunpowder units making champions, but in this situation, I guess he was just so scared of the Goths initially that it's nice to have access to those champions, and the champions are good against the Halberdiers. But right now, Buddy is in deep trouble with a bunch of champions underneath his main town center.
Yeah, not a lot of gold mines at all. His pop is only 134, only 13 military units, so... Oh, it seems like SMB might clear him up here. Might even look worse than Skittle. When I say this, I see Skittle is pop 60, so... No, Skittle is worse.
Ah, rip. I just love the max. You know, right now he's going for the Resonance 22 strategy. Slowly grind them out. And then you barely clinch the win, so... My heart goes out to the max. I hope he can win this with the trash and siege strategy. We'll have to see. Meanwhile, it looks like players are slowly shifting their attention towards the middle of the map. Orange has now finally sent his first few units.
Oh, welcome, Orange. And yeah, the max has a lot of gold. Let's scroll through the players and see how much gold they have. The max has 3.5. Wow, Teal has 11.5k. With some gold income. Skittle has still 10k with pop 60. Jon Snow has 500. Teutonic Tanks 900. Buddy 4k with pop 120. SMB 1k. Euler still 5k as well, being maxed out with a nice army. And the max, as we already said, 3.5k. So... Oh god, if Skittle could survive, his 10k gold could be magic, but I don't really see him getting back to a good army there.
Jon Snow down to a nice healthy 0 gold as his army is so expensive. Just getting grinded out by the Byzantines. And I think it's ridiculous how much money Teal actually has in the bank, and that's one of the nice things that you can do with the Goths is you don't necessarily need a large-sized army since it can constantly replace itself, so yeah, he's ready for the long game.
Yeah, and still so much gold to mine, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see like 20k in his bank pretty soon. I think Jon Snow's mistake, by the way, was the underproduction of hussars. He took fights with only gold units, and that's not something he was forced to do in this situation.
Yeah, I really like to have my valuable gold units like my siege and my gunpowder. But it's always a good idea, if you can, to have some sort of trash units in front of it. That way, the units that you don't really care about are the ones in the front line, soaking up all the damage and dying, and you end up saving a lot of gold in the long run, which unfortunately he just wasn't able to do. Looks like Teutonic Tanks is cleaning up the front half of Green's base as well, so we're starting to run low on players.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe we'd say like 6 players still contesting for this one. But yeah, at least we can kind of count out Skittle, who's really desperately trying to get anything done there.
He's walled into a little sandwich, and he's just trying to make a couple hand cannoneers to defend against this while those Huskarls are chipping away at those walls. Unfortunately, he's out of the game for now. Right now, Euler has a huge army of Mamluks. Now, these are very expensive on the gold side of things, but can be very difficult to get to deal with once they get massed up.
Yeah, especially Goth can't counter them at all. By the way, Skittle was managing to get up a nice amount of hand cannoneers, so could easily take out small amount of Huskarls there. Now trying to snipe the traps even. So yeah, he might be able to clear himself or free himself there.
Yeah, the one thing that Skittle doesn't have right now is population, but at least he has the resources, and oh, he's actually going to stonewall this area up again, so he's stemming the bleeding, and if players don't want to waste their time finishing him off, then that's good for him. He will be able to hold on for just a little bit longer.
And still, he has 1 TC, he has more than 20 villagers, 29. But yeah, just the production of Huskarls can easily kill the small amount of hand cannoneers.
What do you think of there are a lot of... Euler has a lot of monks. He has 3 monasteries. What do you think about this?
3 monasteries are unnecessarily much, I believe. Like, I don't mind having 3-4 monks, but you don't need to have 3 monasteries. Maybe he saw a lot of relics at one time and tried to react to it accordingly, but for now he doesn't
like
need
10 monks. with his army of Mamluks near the middle of the map. So I'm curious. And he actually got a bunch of upgrades on them. Like, he has block printing, he has sanctity, so this is a conscious decision on his part to mix in a bunch of monks with his army. And
Yeah. Oh, now I
curious to see
remember
how this
why.
pays off.
Obviously, a big counter against the Mamelukes are onagers, and maybe he just wants to convert onagers from the distance, not going for siege onagers himself. So maybe he thought that would be the gold efficient version of defending.
I think personally I would have preferred something like siege onagers or bombard cannons, but this is interesting. This is something that I don't normally try in my own matches. So.
Well, bombard cannons aren't good if onagers are actually coming to you, because
Yes.
they're only good if you're trying to snipe them from the distance and run around. But he will need them while actually standing at a position.
Yeah, and then they just get clobbered. They don't have enough of a range advantage, and the siege onagers are just able to tear right through them as well. So cool to see the monks mixed in. We'll have to see if it pays off. Meanwhile, Skittle not actually completely dead yet.
He's fighting back for sure.
And,
So many racks though in space.
Still, though, I think he's mostly out of the game for the most part. Jon Snow still in this, and right now, nobody is actually competing over the center of the map. Sure, it's been swapping control all the time, but there have been, like, minimal military units there.
Teutonic Knights is going for... Teutonic Tanks is going for a weird composition. They're two-handed swordsmen from Mayans. It is... Gold-wise, it's a better counter against Huskarls than Eagles, but really not the unit you want to go for.
And this is my most hated matchup in the game, Mayans versus Goths, because the Mayans just don't really have a good way to deal with those Huskarls, and that's why I think it was kind of a risky pick for Teutonic Tanks to pick Mayans so late in the draft after we already knew that Timo was picking Goths, because if the game boils down to just those players remaining, then it's going to be really difficult to deal with that, so he's forced into two-handed swordsmen.
Yeah, but he can't really be scared of one single player. You have to think about all the 7 and trying to play your maximum. So, and then Goth isn't the scariest, I believe.
Yeah, and like you said, the Goths don't deal very well with the Saracens either, so it's all about hedging your bets and hoping that you don't end up spawning right next to the player's civ that counters yours.
Yeah, that's so true.
Well, Max shifting his attention towards the middle of the map, putting down a bunch of siege workshops. Will we start to see some battles in the middle?
Maybe it might be sometime soon. By the way, Kelt's still without the upgrade for the HP. So
he
that's
says he doesn't have enough stone to build a castle.
Yeah, but still they have to buy this. It is... Skittle doesn't even have a market. It's 400 gold for 100 stone. Although it is costly for sure, yeah.
Poor Skittle might actually get defeated here, as he's desperately trying to build a market with all of his remaining villagers, and he has like 3 military units. Oh god.
What is he trying to... Is he trying to buy food to build more hand cannoneers?
The struggle continues. Meanwhile, I haven't seen a King of the Hill game like this in a while. We only have 3 military units in the center.
Yeah, it's a weird one for sure. So much going on, and yeah, we might be in here for a long game. Let's see all the shots against the army of Teutonic Tanks there. Oh god, obviously that's so cost inefficient there.
Oof.
Some of them still getting out alive, but the next shot will finish them all off.
Yeah, he's also going to have some significant difficulty dealing with Green's siege weapons without mixing in like his own siege weapons or Eagle Warriors. This trash and plumed archers approach won't fare that well against the Mongols.
Teal now trying to take a glimpse at the middle, but saw, okay, there are a lot of Mamelukes, see ya, and is trying to find another approach now.
This is a close game.
Yeah, it's still like 6 players can still absolutely take this one, maybe even 7. And technically all 8 still. So, and this at the 76-minute mark, so 67-minute mark.
This is such an awkward situation for SMB or Red Celts player because he, like he said, he spent so much of his own gold fighting against Buddy that he doesn't actually have enough gold in the bank to buy enough stone to build a castle in the first place. So he's gonna have to sell some of that 10,000 food, even though that's really inefficient, if he wants to get the Furor Celtica.
Yeah, it's super inefficient. Skittle now trying to wall his hand cannoneers there. Nice try, but I think Timmy might close the distance there. And if Skittle's hand cannoneers are dying there, his reboot will be stopped.
No. Poor Skittle. He's gonna have a really difficult time dealing with Teal. I think every player is, considering that he has 20,000 wood, 25,000 food, and almost 20,000 gold in the bank. I can't imagine a player that I would like to fight less.
Oh god. Yeah, him with another civilization maybe, but yeah, I think he is in the prime position to take this one here. Yeah, his production will be just relentless. I would even love to have him, to see him having the racks even closer there. But, yeah.
The one major obstacle is he's going to have a lot of difficulty dealing with Euler's Mamluks, so maybe that will be the thing that sets him back, but he just has so much money in the bank, ready for that long game. Will he be able to deal with the Mamluks?
Yeah, I think he needs to go for some onagers himself. Yeah, that's seriously the right counter. Like, it's very tough in deathmatch. You kind of sometimes come into the scenario where you have to fight with Gauss against Saracens in the late game, and then adding in onagers. You don't really like it, but it's your best choice.
Yeah, you just kind of have to do it, so at some point he's going to need to mix that in. Let's see how much gold Euler has. Euler only has 5k gold in the bank, though, so it's possible that Timo will be able to grind him out. Ray down to 50 years, but he will concede control of the center. Good deal.
Skittle is at pop 5.
Oh, God.
Having 3 villagers there. Running into another Huskal.
Oh.
Okay,
My heart goes out to Skittle.
let's count him out. Pop 4. I'm not too sure where the 4th pop is.
Absolute disaster. He had such a big slice of the map, but in the end he just got ganged up on, and unfortunately he's down to 3.
Where is this last villager? Or last unit? Oh, wow, 1 villager getting gold in the top there. Okay. Reeve impossible.
Well, right now Jon Snow getting rated very hard by the Max's Hussars. And actually trying to put as much pressure on as possible, and... Oh, Green is, kind of in a bit of a Skittle situation where he might end up getting sandwiched on both sides and then just dying.
Yeah, pop 80, not a lot of villagers working, doesn't have any control of wood at the moment, doesn't have any army himself either. Let's take a look at his resources. Oh, no gold, no stone, so absolutely at the limit there.
Yeah, I think that Green is going to be our next player to sort of peter out as he's just steadily dropping down to 60 population, whereas every other player in this game is looking strong, and they all have a reasonable chance to claim this if they can take down the Goth Menace. Jon Snow will resign, so it's worth noting that Skittle technically wasn't the first player to be defeated.
Technically not, yeah, that's true. But honestly, I don't really see enough focus from the players on the middle there. I see Teal being active, Euler being active, SMB being close. But the rest really didn't fight for the middle at all. So I think if Teal is doing a move now, he might be ending this.
I kind of like that SMB is sort of sitting back and playing really conservatively, because he knows that gold is a extremely big problem for him right now. He only has 300 in the bank, so he's just trying to conserve his siege onagers, wait for Teal and Gray to try and waste each other's resources, and then he's gonna come in at the end, as long as he doesn't die to Buddy in the meantime.
Skittle saving his last gold miner there with a great micro. Oh, he really does not want to get defeated. Okay, guess we have to kill Teal now. Yes, mission impossible. What? 50 years, and there's still so many wrecks close by. Let's go into Timothy's view. I think he has a good shot here.
Yeah,
if he queues up
48 years.
Yeah, only 48 years, and if he queues up all those wrecks, there's just basically an extra 600 pop close to the monument.
Well, when I said that I really wanted to see the Goths during the Civ draft, now I'm horrified. This is going exactly what I feared, which is the Goths player just is able to get huge stockpile resources the entire game. Can they take him down? Here comes the Teutonic tanks, two-headed swordsman.
Yeah, I don't really see how they're doing this. Gray is too far away. Red is the only guy really fighting for it. Blue is too far away. Gray now needs to focus. Okay,
he needs to move in. Gray's got a huge army. It's time to go. 35 years left.
And still so many champs and so many more coming in as well. The population, as you can see, is very high still from him. I think he is in a good position to close us out here. 30 years.
It's possible that Teal gets pushed back if Gray just uses his troops, everybody being so greedy. Euler has a very big army of Mamluks, Siege Onagers, and Monks. It's time to go.
Oh, I think Timothy will take this here. Players are just too late. Orange is the only guy really fighting. Red is close by, but not killing enough. He is doing some major damage, but what does it change if we kill 20 champions? Instantly, he will spawn 20 more.
And the Mayans just killed him so very slowly. But here comes Blue, the Max, the hero we've all been waiting for. He has elite cataphracts, the counter to the Goths. Can he do it?
He has the perfect unit, but it's only 18 years, and Timothy still has endless amounts of resources. He can produce into there. Now all the champions on this side are trying to get cleared up. Gray is way too late to the party, only 16 years. Red says he has no resources.
Why did Gray wait so long? I understand that Blue needed to mass up some of those elite cataphracts. Gray's coming in here. He thinks 10 years is enough. Will it be enough?
Oh, I don't really see that coming through. And it's still wrecks from all the sides. So even if they block the left-hand side, which they're kind of doing now, on the right-hand side, there's still enough units from Teal. He might be the champion of King of the Hippo too. Still some champions there. And there's no contest on the Halberdiers and Huskat on the right-hand side.
Devo 2016 playing the Zerg of AoE 2 to its fullest potential. This man has infinite money. Nobody can deal with the mass Huskarls. Elite Cataphracts not enough. Mamluks not enough. He will be the champion of King of the Hippo 2.
GG! Timothy wins it here, and the winner of $250 and the crown for King of the Hippo 2.
GG, well played, everybody. That was an excellent final game to end off the tournament. Congratulations, TiVo, for taking this. Wow.
Oh, yeah, and we said quite some time early that this guy is really doing the best setup there, and then saw the timing and sniped the wonder for himself.
Oh crud! I accidentally exited out of the achievements.
I can.
How many? What were the units killed? Or any highlights?
So, military count. SMB very cost efficient there. Skittle obviously very much down. Jon Snow's taking good fights. Timothy obviously not the greatest skill statistics, but that's because he invested endless amounts at the end. Having 150 largest armies, so even killing villagers there early on before the fight, realizing everything. Having 40k gold earned.
Wow.
Yeah, just huge amounts. Food, as we can see, some players will huge amounts, but yeah, the main story is the gold. Most players around 20 SMB body and Teutonic tanks, only in the 10k area there, or actually like 13 to 16k. Time's not really important. Society, we had 2 relics for Euler, Timothy, and Teutonic tanks, but that's not the thing which ends games.
Indeed, indeed. Well, this was an excellent tournament as always, and I really appreciate you, inviting me to co-cast with you. I had a blast, and I thought that was a great game. So yeah, GG, well played. Thank you so much for watching, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for being here and thanks for watching. Indeed, I think we had close to 500 viewers at a time, so for a
Wow.
very small tournament, that's a big success, I have to say. I enjoyed the games very much. Great co-casters there for sure. Great games, and congrats to our Ghost player who did pick Ghost as fifth, sixth, seventh civilization and actually still winning there.
Incredibly impressive. This is Goths in a nutshell. All right, so I'm gonna head off now. I hope
We
you
will
all
do a
enjoyed
short
watching
interview
the tournament.
if
Huh?
you want to. We can do a short interview with him,
Oh, sure. Actually, yeah.
um,
Let's do that then.
and I will can. Yes, I didn't show the password on stream. That's good for a change. Um, yeah, I should have remembered the guys um, before we started the game that we wanted to have an interview. Last time we couldn't catch Future because it was like the biggest tournament of his time, of all his time ever in AOC, and he was just too exhausted to even think straight. So couldn't catch him, but now Feanor is on his way. One of the two brothers of Melkor and Feanor, I think they're both Irish and got from like 1700 average players to 2K top expert within the last 10 years. So very happy to see him, yeah, succeed here. And now he is here.
Hello.
Oh, that's a morn of winners.
Yes. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
How do you feel?
I can tell you that my heartbeat in the last um, 15 years was so loud I thought I was going to burst.
Okay. Okay, so yeah, tell us. Oh yeah, take your breath first. So let's go step by step. After you won your first qualifier, did you think that you could go through? Were you actually happy, or did you thought that like, okay, it was just luck, and let's see if I can luck again?
Well, obviously I was lucky in the fact that Moons did not get through. That was just crazy, that bit. Um, him being defeated when it was 0 years, I just could not believe that. Um, Then once I actually got through, I figured it would depend a lot on what civ I could get. And if I could get one of the civs that I liked, I thought I would have had a chance because it's just chaos, and it totally depends on what other players do.
Okay, what were your favorite civs? Like your top three, you were kind of aiming for.
My top three would have been Spanish, um, Goths, and possibly Celts.
Okay.
Spanish, obviously, because of their just superior trash to every other civ, and then their villagers. I find their villagers are actually really useful. Goths, for obvious reasons, their spam is just so strong, especially if you delete your villagers and can have. I was allowed my barracks near the center, which if Seadrams had plowed that, it would have made it a lot more difficult. And the third civ, I was actually unsure of because I knew in Chaos Pit there's very little stone, and most of the power civs need a lot of stone. So
Hmm.
that eliminated a huge amount of civs from potential.
Yeah, I
Okay.
really like the Goths choice.
Yeah, Resonance was super happy to see them. So, okay, what was your strategy when you saw like, okay, I get as a seventh pick, all the others are picking other strong civilizations, obviously, and then you went into a game with the Gauss. What was your game plan?
Um, well, I think my first game plan was just to be able to boom and secure coin if I could. I was very lucky in placement on the map, because the distance between me and SMB was very small, but the distance between myself and Skittle was quite massive,
Yeah.
which obviously gives a huge advantage to me, because that meant with certain wall placement, then I could secure a huge portion of the map, way more than I actually deserved, based on the 8-player size map. And once I could secure that huge chunk, it was just boom, make sure that it was not getting frightening in the middle until I had exhausted all my gold mines, let chaos ensue around the map, and then suddenly go for it.
Okay, yeah, great stuff. So, when did you think, like, okay, now players could be distracted, now I have to go for it?
Well, I could look using my outposts beside SMB's base. And due to X's throughout the map, I could see that there was fighting going on, which was distracting players. And I made it my business to kill Skittle just so he could not do a massive push from behind me if I went for it, because that's what he did the first time. And after that, I was just like, I'm not having none of this. I'm going to kill you. And I saw SMB was busy with I don't know which player, so if my economy is protected and my base is protected, then I figured may as well just give it everything, considering I had like 20k of each resource.
Yeah, that's true. So, describe your feelings throughout the last 100 years.
Oh.
The first sort of 30 years was sort of a dummy thing. I wasn't sure if I was actually going for it, so I wasn't actually concerned at all. When it got to 50 years, that's when I realized that I actually had a chance to take it if I could just start the spam. So that's why when I actually started getting serious and sending villagers to build a whole new load of barracks just surrounding the wonder, because everyone can kill my units really fast. But if I've got 20 barracks beside the center, they're not going to stop me from having at least one unit in the center. When it got to last 25 years, that's when I started leading villages like crazy just to keep the spam up. Especially when I saw the Cataphracts and Mamluk, I knew that I needed to lead all my as many villages as possible, just so I can spam as many units as possible.
And thankfully, you had the resources in the bank that you were able to do that with ease.
So, luckily, as I said, my map was very fortunate in terms of space. I had a lot of gold and I also had 2 relics. And then on top of that, everyone else was at a disadvantage, I felt, because they had gone for stone-intensive civs. Like, for example, Saracens, Mongols, Mayans, all of them, in my opinion, were much handicapped in that chaos pit when you've only got 2 stone mines realistically.
Yeah. And SMB even had a lot of trouble getting up a castle that he needed to upgrade his siege weapons.
Yeah. That's true. Okay, and now the last 10 years?
Oh my goodness. I thought I was going to die. In the last 10 years, I was just trying to find every single barracks I had within a 20 tower radius and just spawn it on the center. And I was moving units like crazy. Well, it was kind of funny because everyone was concentrating on the upper left side of my of the wonder, where I had most of my barracks, but there were 2 sort of barracks on the opposite side of which everyone was ignoring. And I was just like, no one see those barracks, no one see those, please.
Yeah, and they didn't. So what did your enemies do wrong that you could actually snag the win there?
Well, obviously, I don't know what happened on the rest of the map because I couldn't see.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense.
Um,
Okay.
I know that maybe Skittle attacked me too early. He attacked me when I was basically had all the resources I needed and was just sort of daring someone to attack me so I could just plow them. But I just don't know what happened on the rest of the map, so I can't really give a answer to that question.
Okay, makes sense.
The only thing I can say is probably civ picking. I do not know how Goths was left when I was 7th.
7th pick, yeah. So, like, I'm having here my sheet. What do you think about Byzantines at the third pick?
Byzantines made sense to me, because once again, it's as if that doesn't. If you have castles, it's nice, but it doesn't really require castles because it's basically got every other unit in the game. Um, and I think that's important. Having tech trees which, without stone, you can get anything. So Byzantines with, sure they don't have they've got nerfed paladins, hussars, but they can still get them. Then they have herbalists, perfect skirmishers, perfect champion, well, almost perfect champions and halberdiers. So they've just got everything. So I thought it was a pretty decent. That would have been in my top four probably.
Okay. Okay. Sweet stuff. Before the game, who were you most scared of?
Um, well, probably got to say the Max just because uh, both I really respect and fear his super play, especially on Arabia, since that's the map I normally play, and I'm against him a lot, and he is just so good. So obviously I was scared of him, but I felt that the fact that he was possibly the best in the room were obviously counted in my favor, because if the top the top two are always going to have the most difficult time because everyone is going to try to kill them. So the Max, if it was the one I feared the most, but at the same time, I realized that would go against him.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Sweet stuff. So, do you have any more questions, Resonance?
When is King of the Hippo 3?
That was actually the question on my mind.
Okay, actually, obviously I've made some thought about this. I think King of the Hippo 3 will be a one-day 2v2v2v2 tournament.
Ooh. I am
Yes.
looking forward to that. That's one I can play with my brother.
Yeah, obviously, you're a set team, so that's what I'm thinking the most of, and actually would love to do that.
That sounds great because King of the Hippo has got to be one of my favorite tournaments of all time.
Sweet,
And
sweet.
one of my personal favorites as well.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Like obviously I love just the free for all, and they were typically short games. Like both of the ones were just above an hour in length, which is pretty short relative to tournaments. And then obviously I just love the chaos, how anyone can win.
Yeah, that's the true. Yeah, but we had like maybe that was a small mistake by me going for Ghost Lake, but there we had like a 2.5 hour game yesterday.
Oh, okay. Ghost Lake is harder because since you're not allowed to spam units next to the center, it means that you really need to have an army there which doesn't die. So
Yeah, you can't build in the ice terrain, no bombard towers or anything either. Ugh.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's interesting for sure. So, thank you guys for the interview.
thank you for allowing this tournament to happen.
Yeah,
Yeah,
great.
thanks for having me co-cast the finals. It was a blast.
Yeah, thanks a lot for all, we had great co-casters all over it. The return of Membrio to Verbally Official, for example. And yeah, the VODs will be up. If you only tuned in for the finals, check out qualifier number 6. You might get spoiled who won this qualifier, but it's absolutely still worth it to see.
Quali 6. That one was the most heart-wrenching thing for... Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Like a lot of neighbors must have thought that someone died in my apartment. Yeah. So, thanks everyone for the great time. And yeah, congratulations to Feanor. We will talk about bank statement later. And yeah, I will mute the stream for now. And thank you for everyone for watching. Tune in next time for King of the Hippo 3. And in between, we have great games coming up for the next 4 to 5 weeks, I think, for Clan Masters, the final knockout stage now. The best 16 teams in the world.
See you around, guys. Thank you so much for watching.
Sound muted.
Thanks everyone, I had a great weekend with all of you guys. Love you all. Keep AOC up, and hopefully we will see more great tournaments coming up with Woobly Official.